Priest, one day he's out for a walk, dangerous neighborhood. It's a cold day, so he's got his trench coat buttoned up to his chin. Sudden, a man comes out of the darkness with a revolver, comes up to the priest and says, points the revolver at him and says, "Give me your wallet." So with that, the priest realizes there's really nothing you can do, so he starts unbuttoning everyone his trench coat from, the top down. And just as soon as the robber, everyone sees the Roman collar, he stops and he says, "Father, wait a minute. I can't take your wallet. You're a priest. I can't steal from you. But realize it's a dangerous neighborhood, so just be on your way." Okay? Well, the priest, of course, was grateful, so he reaches around in his trench coat and he digs around, tries, find something to offer the man. Pulls out a cigar. It's the only thing he could find. So he goes up to the man and he goes to the robber and he says, I'm grateful, that nothing worse happened here. Here, in gratitude, I just want to give you this cigar. It's the only thing I have. And you know what the man said to him? The robber said? He said this. Now listen carefully. He said, "Thanks, Father, but no thanks, because I gave up smoking for Lent." Okay? I start that story because we're about, I think, 18 or 19 days into Lent, but there's a reason we do these small things. We give up small things to help us with the bigger things, which help us be better Christians. In other words, to give up smoking, that should obviously lead to the fact, I hope, that we don't go out and steal, which leads us then to becoming what? Better Christians. So the small things, everyone, really do make a difference. So keep that in mind. I want to look today at the first reading in the gospel, and I talked to the children earlier about these first 3 Sundays. It's been fascinating. Covenant in the first reading of the first Sunday of Lent, another covenant the second, and another covenant today. We covered the first Sunday of Lent with the children, so let's just skip over that one. Remember in that one, Noah, covenant, build the ark, faithful, God, covenant, rainbow. By the way, has God been faithful to his end of the covenant through time? Indeed he has. Let's go to the second Sunday. Second Sunday of Lent, everyone, remember the story, Abraham and Isaac. Okay, God asked Abraham to sacrifice his son Isaac. Okay, so Abraham gets ready to go. Now, can you imagine the look that Sarah probably gave Abraham as he walked out the door? We do not hear that in the story. But I bet you the words were not kind. Okay, but Abraham goes. Okay, and he's close to sacrificing his son when all of a sudden the messenger of God steps in. Okay, and says, "Stop, I know how faithful you are now." And in place of Isaac, what is sacrificed, everyone? It is a ram. Okay? And because Abraham was faithful, remember what God said to Abraham? "Abraham, because you've been so faithful, I promise this, I will make your descendants as numerous as the stars and the sands." Has God been faithful through time? Indeed he has. After all, everyone, we still are those children. Okay, now today, everyone, the covenant is this. The Israelites have left Egypt. God has gotten them out of Egypt. They come to Mount Sinai. They pitch camp. Okay? Time to take a rest. And with that, what does God promise? He promises the people land, prosperity, and leisure. In turn, what does he ask of them? Is to follow the 10 Commandments. Okay? So there it is, that covenant. People, be faithful to my commandments, and I will give you land, leisure, and prosperity. Okay? And because the 10 Commandments are so fascinating to us, as a matter of fact, when I set out that question box about 3 years ago, and if you were to ask me what was the one area that people wanted me to talk most about, it was believe it or not, the 10 Commandments. Father, teach us more about the commandments. So I'm going to take some time and I'm going to do that today. I'm going to look at all 10. I'm going to give you a thought on each. Okay? Obviously, we can't go through all of them in detail today. It would just take too much time. But I hope this gives you a better understanding that there's more to these commandments than simply meets the eye. By the way, they're commandments, not suggestions. We don't call them the 10 suggestions. They're the commandments. Big difference. Okay? Commandment number 1, I am the Lord your God, you shall not. What? Have strange gods before me. Okay, fine. If you want to understand someone, find out what they worship. There are all things we can worship. We can worship money, power, sex, lust, pornography, food, possessions. We worship all of those. However, remember what the commandments say. There is no competition here. It's either God or something else. There's no two gods. It is one. And who is supposed to be first? It is God. No competition. No two gods, no three gods, one God. So is he first? All right, commandment number 2. Shall not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain. What we say is important. Become casual in our speech about God and we soon disrespect God. Read this sentence now twice because it's deep. There's a lot to it, but here it goes. The way you talk about God influences the way you think about God, which influences how you act toward God. Here it is again. The way you talk about God influences the way you think about God, which influences how you act towards God. And that's true. Okay? Commandment number 3, keep holy the Sabbath day. God gave us this commandment because you know what? Practice is important. You take a violin and you play it every day for 20 straight years, you get pretty good at it. But you know something? You take that violin, you set it down for 20 years, you pick it up again and you try to play it. You know what? You're out of tune. Make worship optional, stop practicing, and you know what happens? You lose touch with God. You start getting in this mode of, I'll just make this an optional thing, I'll choose when to go. You know, you start doing that, you lose touch with God. So God gave us a commandment, and it's this: practice. Okay? Commandment number 4. All right, parents, this is a time that you elbow your children and tell them to listen. Here we go. Children, honor your father and your mother. This is the only commandment which has a promise to it. Children, listen. Honor your father and mother, that you may have a long life in the land which the Lord your God is giving you, a long life. In other words, parents, if your children ever disrespect you, you know what you can do? Just go like this. Hey, remember what Father said. You want to live long, you honor me. You can say that for me. Because it's the 4th commandment. All right? Now, children, elbow your parents, because isn't it interesting how God does things? He's smart. This is the 5th one. Thou shalt not kill. Now that means, parents, you can't kill your kid. Elbow, not kill them. Okay? But seriously, ever wonder why Catholics have a strong stance on life? Notice what it doesn't say. Thou shalt not kill a fetus. Thou shalt not kill someone who's elderly. It says this: thou shalt not kill, period. There's a great deal of respect amongst other churches for our stance on life. We believe the dignity of all life, from conception to natural death. Where's our stance on pro-life? Commandment number 5. Don't kill. Commandment number 6, thou shalt not commit adultery. People, listen to me. Trust me on this one. Adultery is the one act that devastates a marriage more than anything else, period. Okay? We can heal from a lie. We can heal from nasty words turned into disagreements. Yet adultery, everyone, brings devastation. Heartbreak upon heartbreak would not exist if this commandment were followed. It just brings devastation and heartbreak. Okay? Commandment number 7, thou shalt not steal. When stealing takes more and more a hold of our communities, notice what happens. Great example, I've spoken of this before. 60 years ago, when you left your home today, none of us thought about locking our doors. Now it'd be fascinating to go around the church and ask, did you lock your doors when you came to church today? I bet you a vast majority would say yes. Why? Number 7, we don't trust anymore. See how sins are so devastating? We don't trust each other. Commandment number 8, you shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. This commandment treasures the power of speech. Do not use speech to undermine the good of another, nasty words, backstabbing, or gossip. Learn how to speak the truth about others, a truth that builds the others up. And if you can't say anything good, then don't say anything at all. Number 8. Commandment number 9 and number 10 speak of coveting. Don't covet your neighbor's wife. Don't covet your neighbor's goods. Here's what it really means. It is one thing to admire or be grateful for or happy for what another has. But what happens when you covet? Look at the story of David. Remember David, everyone, is outside and he sees Bathsheba down there bathing and he drools over her. He's got to have Bathsheba. So what does he do? He calls Bathsheba, has a relation, she becomes pregnant. But here's the problem. She's married. And so what happens in the end? Here's the whole story condensed. Okay? You talk about a shipwreck. Okay? David kills Uriah, Bathsheba's husband. David is called out by the prophet Nathan, and the son born of Bathsheba and David dies. Isn't that a cycle? Uriah is dead. Nathan calls out David. And in the end, the child that they had through adulterous relations dies. So if you ever wonder about what coveting really means, just pick up 2 Samuel, read the story of David and Bathsheba. Very simple story. It just leads to a shipwreck. Okay? And there you have them, everyone, the great 10 commandments. Now, next week when you come, I do want to offer a word on the gospel of today because it's a fascinating gospel. Jesus and the zeal that he has for God's house. Okay? We're going to talk about that next week. But in the meantime, everyone, take those commandments to heart. Okay? Take them to heart. Remember, they're not suggestions, they're commandments. Okay? Live them faithfully. God's blessings to you, everyone. And once again, let's continue to have a holy and faith-filled Lent.